discourse here. He's talking about the last days and his return. Here's what he said. He said, "For the kingdom of heaven," notice this is almost exactly like it was in Mark, "is as a man traveling into a far country, who called his own servants and delivered unto him his goods. And to one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, and to another 1, to every man according to his several ability, and straightway took his journey. Then he that had received the 5 talents went and traded them with the same, and made them other 5 talents. And likewise he that had received 2, he also gained other 2. But he that had received 1 went and digged in the earth, and hid his Lord's money. And after a long time the Lord of those servants cometh and reckoned with them. And so he that had received 5 talents came and brought another 5 talents, saying, Lord, thou deliverest unto me 5 talents. Behold, I have gained besides them 5 talents more. His Lord said unto him, Well done, thou good and faithful servant. Thou hast been faithful over a few things. I will make thee ruler over many things. Enter thou into the joy of the Lord. He also that had received 2 talents came and said, Lord, thou deliverest unto me 2 talents. Behold, I have gained 2 other talents beside them. His Lord said unto him, Well done, good and faithful servant. Thou hast been faithful over a few things. I will make thee ruler over many things. Enter thou into the joy of the Lord. Then he which he had received the 1 talent came and said, Lord, I knew thee that thou art a hard man, reaping where thou hast not sown, and gathering where thou hast not strawed. And I was afraid. And I went and hid thy talent in the earth. Lo, there hast that is thine. His Lord answered and said unto him, Thou wicked and slothful servant, thou knewest that I reap where I sowed not, and gather where I have not strawed. Thou oughtest therefore to have put my money to the exchangers, and then at my coming I should have received mine own usury. Take therefore the talent from him, and give it unto him which hath 10 talents. For unto every one that hath shall be given, and he shall have abundance. But from him that hath not shall be taken away even that which he hath. And cast ye the unprofitable servant into outer darkness. There shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. I told you that we're all going to be called one of these days to meet Christ. This is a very, very good illustration given by none other than Jesus Christ of himself, of him going away and coming again. And when he comes, he's going to call his servants in. Each servant, not as a group, one at a time. And each one is going to stand before Christ, and they're going to give an account. And he gives an example here. He said, this is sort of what it would be like. He said, the master had 3 servants. And before he went away, he called the one in, and he gave him 5 talents. Now, a talent is a measure. It's not an item. A talent is not a dollar or a quarter. A talent is a weight, sort of like a pound. And we don't know where he gave him a talent of gold, a talent of silver, or whatever it was. It was just a measure. Let's just use that. He gave them something. He gave them a measure, but he gave one 5 measures. And he gave another servant, according to his ability. Notice this, according to his ability, he gave him 2. And this other servant, which he loved just as much as he did the other 2, no doubt, he knew his ability, and all he gave him was 1. That's what he was responsible for, 1 talent. And he goes away. Now, what he expects these servants to do, they know what to do with what he gave them. While he's gone, they're to do kingdom work. They're to keep the household. They're to pay the bills. And they're to do all the things that it takes to keep the kingdom or the household running. And he gives them the ability, he gives them the means, and he goes away. And finally he comes again when they least expect it. And he begins to call them around and say, go get the first servant, whatever his name was. Go get Joe, whatever. Bring him in, and I want to talk to Joe. Joe comes in, and Joe's anxious. Lord, you gave me 5 talents. Look what I've got. I've worked while you was gone. I've been about your business. Joyfully I've worked. And look at the increase. I've got 5 more. Here's 10. And he lays the measures, 10 measures at the master's feet. And the master's just, oh, so pleased. He said, well done, thou good and faithful servant. Said, you've been faithful over a few things. Now I'm going to make you ruler over many things. Enter thou into the joys of the Lord. In other words, enter into the kingdom. The one who had received 3 comes in, and he's anxious too. The Lord said, you gave me 3, and I've been busy. Look what I've got. 3 more. And he lays them at the master's feet. He looks at them. He's happy. Well done, my good and faithful servant. Same thing. You've been faithful over these few things. Now I'm going to make you ruler over them and enter into the joys of the Lord. But along comes the servant who was only gave 1 talent. We don't know a whole lot about him except this. He wasn't busy. And he comes in with this 1 talent in his hand that he had been given. No more, just the 1, and he lays it at the master's feet. He says, there, so to speak, there. It's yours. You gave me this 1 talent. And I was scared to death to do anything with it because I knew you. And I knew that you was a hard man. Has anybody ever known a hard man or a hard woman? You was a hard man to deal with. You're tough. And I was afraid something would happen to it, and I didn't want to do anything with it. So what I done is, I'll be honest with you, Lord, I dug a hole, and I buried it in the ground. And I heard that you was back, so I dug it up, and now I'm presenting it to you just like you gave it to me. There it is. Now, he probably expected the Lord to say, well, that's good enough. At least you didn't lose anything. You know, I've got it. I think what happened? He says, thou lazy and slothful servant, or wicked and unprofitable. He calls him lazy and slothful. He says, what you should have done was take what I gave you and invest it. Work with it. Take a chance on it. And that way, when I come back, yes, I would have what I gave you, but I would have also saw some increase, some usury. That's interest. He said, I would have gained interest. In other words, what I gave you to work with, you would have saw an increase. But now you have nothing. And what he tells him is, it's a sad thing. It's a sad thing. Because he tells him, he said, thou wicked and slothful servant. I'm looking for the word that I'm looking for. He said, thou wicked and slothful servant. Thou doest that I reap where I sowed not, and gather where I have not strawed. What are we saying? It all belongs to Christ. It's all His. We're working, but we're not working for ourselves. We're working for Him. And He has a right to reap in this world, although He didn't sow, but we sowed. Paul said that. One sows, another waters, and somebody else comes along and reaps. The harvest is, after all, Christ. He said you knew that. He said, take therefore the talent from him and give it to him which hath 10. And cast ye the unprofitable servant. Here's the thing, folks, the sad thing. Cast ye the unprofitable servant into outer darkness where is weeping and gnashing of teeth. Now, well, you might not be a Hebrew Bible scholar or anything like that, but how smart do you have to be to understand what Jesus is talking about here? Does everybody understand what he's talking about? He said, cast him into outer darkness where there is weeping and gnashing of teeth. You say, well, what was the real sin of the man? Being slothful and lazy and not doing anything, for one thing. And you say, well, what did he actually do? His sin was not a sin of commission. Commission is when you do something wrong, like you lie, you cheat, you commit adultery, you're doing something wrong. That's a committed sin. But you can sin by doing nothing, and that's what he says. And I took what you give me and I hid it in the ground, and I'm guilty of nothing. Oh, yes, you are. You're guilty of not doing the work that I gave you to do. You're a slothful servant. You're an unprofitable servant. And you will depart from me forever. See, there's only 2 places to be in eternity. You either enter into the kingdom or you're in outer darkness. Outer darkness is a place outside the realm of life. If you look up the definition of outer darkness, it says that it's a place outside the reference or source of life. That's heaven. And people who can't go to heaven and you can't enter into the kingdom, there's only one other place to go. You're outside the camp. You're in outer darkness. And he said, out here there's weeping and gnashing of teeth. The important thing is, folks, is that we work. That we work. That we work while we can. Jesus is not a hard man. You know, that was the accusation. Some people would do that today. They'd say, oh, Lord, you're hard. I can't serve you. You don't want me to have any fun. What are they talking about? Well, you don't want me to partake of the world and all the sin that's in it. You're saying that I got to lay all that aside and everybody else is having a good time. Well, they're lusting for the world and the things of the world. They're lusting for sin. Instead of worrying about kingdom business, instead of worrying about how can I live holy and righteous and please my master and see an increase on what he's given me to do, they're worried about the fact that they can't engage in the sins of the world. And they call Jesus a hard hard man because he tells them to lay these things aside. What does Paul say? Lay aside every sin and weight which so easily besets us, and then run with patience the race, that's the work that's set before us. That's the plan. But there'll be a lot of people, no doubt, who will try this in the day of judgment. Oh, you're a hard man.